Hey folks, welcome to another of my Goodwill book reviews. These again are reviews of books that are new to me, but that I found in a Goodwill outlet bin and were destined for recycling, and I grabbed them and retrieved them for a new life. This week I'm reviewing The Candy House by Jennifer Egan, great Jennifer Egan, great novelist, published in 2022. I must know I found it in bin 5 of the Goodwill outlet where I go. It just kind of went by in a flash, all these tumbles of books and everything. I grab it because I saw her name, and I tend to write. I tend to read anything that she wrote. To start out like a stiff book reviewer, Candy House is a commentary on our tech lives in modern America, AI in particular, though the book really isn't about artificial intelligence per se. It's instead about a system that she invents for the book called Own Your Consciousness, which is kind of hip marketing slogan for a technology wherein we all kind of donate our consciousness and our memories, our life memories, to a collective where everybody can share them. So now we all know each other's private thoughts and memories, even from past moments and distant times in our lives. I will say that I read this book at a time when I'm feeling particularly nauseated by AI. I'm sure it'll do some great stuff. I'm sure there'll be major advances in science and health that come out of artificial intelligence. However, I think overall, we as a species are really not prepared for this kind of thing. Our brains are not ready, just as our brains are not prepared for the sheer excess of junk food, smart media, hyperpotent crap of all kinds that our economy has innovated and mass produced. Our brains remain in the Stone Age. That's what evolutionary biologists say. They're very interesting to read on this. What they mean is that our brains evolved over millions of years to deal with scarcity, that there wasn't enough of anything. And it was really, if you ever found something, you better consume it immediately, right? Our brains have not yet evolved to deal healthily with the excess of our modern high-tech fast food economy of the last 30 to 50 years. That's what they contend. I find this to be a very interesting argument. Now, we see this kind of excess of our modern economy everywhere. It's all aimed at prodding us, distracting us, pushing us to crave. If you think about it, illegal drugs are really the small part of the story. Really much larger is all that we are confronted with that is trying to push us to want something because something like it was scarce millions of years. Sugar, junk food, distraction, all of that kind of stuff to me is so interesting because it does seem like we now have a highly addictive economy of stuff that's legal. The illegal stuff is really kind of out there on the fringe, it seems to me. Anyway, the new technologies coming at us, like AI, are just like more astounding, awe-inspiring versions of the fast food and the gambling apps and the smartphones and the hyperpotent pot and all the other stuff that we have allowed to assault us and allowed corporate marketers to just lambaste us with. I bring this up because I will say that I was a little queasy at times reading The Candy House, but it did get me thinking of all these kinds of questions. I got far away from the plot after a while, just began to think about what role all this has now in our lives and how we can defend ourselves against all this stuff. The interesting thing is, that said, much of the book is not about technology. It's about characters, their interactions, several of whom appeared first in Egan's Pulitzer Prize-winning novel, A Visit from the Goon Squad, which I read a few years back. Anyway, the way she weaves their stories together is just wonderful. Starting them, then connecting these characters like many chapters later, weirdly, unexpectedly, yet resolving it all in some way that is deeply satisfying, I think, as readers. I found it so. I think it's important to note that to the extent her characters' stories end happily, it's due to a human connection, not a technological one. The son of the novel's great tech pioneer, for example, he finds himself not in some technology, but in his own storytelling, in his own writing. It occurred to me during this book that that's what great fiction does for us today as we confront the assaults of corporate marketing that are, all around us, and all of which are aimed at prodding the structure of our brains, how we evolved, how these brains evolved. Great fiction keeps us human, keeps us, connected, defends us from this world in which we now live that we are not neuroscientifically not prepared for. Storytelling is something I think this is pretty clear. Storytelling is something we have evolved to need. It's why we've always told stories. Cavemen told them, TV producers today have told them we have always needed stories. To not have stories in our lives would be crippling, I think. Storytelling reminds us that we're in this together. It allows us to feel empathy for each other, I think. And that's what keeps our communities strong, and strong communities is how we survived as a species to be the dominant species on the earth today. Thing about it is, the tech bros, those wonderful, innovative folks, know that storytelling is essential to us. They use it, but often in the form of an assault. Storytelling becomes like any other product or substance. It becomes addictive, relentless, without a break. You got TikTok and Netflix. They don't ask you, they just shovel those stories at you without you. Sometimes I like that. I binge watched The Wire on HBO and several other programs just like that. I loved it. It was unbelievably beautiful, creative, rich storytelling. Other times, though, like when we're watching kind of reels of doom or whatever, it alters your mood. It sends you into kind of almost semi-depression. But while reading The Candy House, I found a long YouTube interview with Jennifer Egan about her writing, how she does it. It's linked below, I think, or wherever I put that link. Anyway, I love her idea in this interview that fiction is the dream life of our culture. We all create fiction every night, when we dream. She says, her idea is that fiction writers do the same thing for a culture. I hadn't thought about that, but I think she's right. Great fiction creates for a culture something, feels to me, something that is as healthy, necessary, and maybe also unavoidable as dreaming is to each of us, individually. Great fiction has a way of saving us from the isolation, the relentless assault of the software and the products and the all the junk that consumer capitalism has produced that we are unprepared for and constantly assaulted by. That's how I really feel. Fiction allows us to do what the tech software in this novel was doing. It allows us to share the memories and the consciousness of other people. In this case, it's the author and her characters. It's limited. But it does so in a healthier way, quietly, with focus, less distraction, in a more limited way, as I just said, that, than some corporate manipulated technology would provide for us. I mean, it's all about excess with that stuff, A novel allows you to experience other people's memories and consciousness, but in a quiet, focused way. Finding those healthier ways of dealing with technology will be the challenge of our species. It already is. finding the ways that are appropriate to the brains that we have within us that have not moved as fast as consumer marketing and all the rest. Fiction is one way of doing that. Each novel becomes a healthy version of Own Your Consciousness. Reading fiction revives us, revives our brains. It's like Narcan for our brains on high-tech corporate marketing overdose. Okay? So go find your own copy of The Candy House and read a great American novelist. Subscribe to my Dreamland newsletter and to my YouTube channel. I love doing these Goodwill book reviews. After all, what's the point, of having your own newsletter if you can't do funky stuff like review books that you salvage from Goodwill? Anyway, I hope you like them. Please share them. Join me for my next Goodwill book review, in which I'll be reviewing The Last Train to Memphis, The Rise of Elvis Presley by the very great music journalist Pete Guralnick. Until then, sleep tight, don't let the bed bugs bite, and I'll see you later.